Are you sure you know everything there is to know about the famous action comedy, The Cannonball Run?
It has an all-star cast and some crazy car races.
Not so fast.
The movie has a lot of funny parts and crazy action, but what you probably don't know is that it also has a dark and twisted side with deleted scenes and drama that happened behind the scenes that the producers cruelly hid.
Do not tell anyone the truth.
There were scenes so racy that even the cast and crew got red in the face, improvised lines that were so offensive that the director slammed his fist on the table and yelled for a retake, and times when things on set got so out of hand that actors reportedly screamed at the crew in the middle of a take. One more thing, these kinds of ideas would make you wonder how they got into the story in the first place. On-set accidents that were very scary, dangerous stunts involving cars, and even awkwardly funny moments from Burt Reynolds himself, whose accidents became legendary among the group, made making the movie very difficult.
It wasn't just a show. Crazy things happened all the time at the Cannonball Run, and there were shocking secrets you wouldn't believe.
Place your hands on the seats, because this ride will shock and amuse you. People who worked on the movie Cannonball Run always said that the set was crazy, fun, and unplanned, which fit the style of director Hal Needham and star Burt Reynolds. The film team often didn't stick to the script and let the actors make up lines if it made the scene funnier.
Improvisation was used a lot in this movie.
One of the most famous examples is a small scene in the first half where two characters argue in a workshop before the race starts. The scene was only supposed to have a few easy lines in the original script. A sarcastic remark from character A scares character B. But while the movie was being filmed, a supporting player who was a close stuntman to Needham and was known for being honest, made up a whole different line. "I would stuff those rosary bleeds up your nose if I had time." The rude and offensive line made the whole crew laugh out loud right then and there. It was said that Burt Reynolds fell over laughing, and Needham slapped him on the back and said, "Good one.
Let's see if it makes it into the movie."
At the time, the set felt very 1980s, laid back, and spontaneous, and everyone thought the line was just a joke that would be taken out after filming. When the video was brought into the editing room, however, it was marked right away as not being acceptable. Editors and 20th Century Fox employees were worried that the scene was too PG for three main reasons. There was a direct fear of violence. In an offensive way, it used the rosary as a sacred symbol. The film could have been rated R because of the bad language.
In the early 1980s, the MPAA set the rules for U.S. censorship.
One line of sexual or religious profanity was enough to drop a PG grade, so the filmmakers had to cut or replace it. So, the director and production team decided to cut out the whole scene. The cut was changed with a shorter, more neutral piece of dialogue in which the character only says a few harmless sarcastic things before the scene changes to the next action scene. This was done to keep the film's pace. For the audience, it was just a short scene to help with the shift, nothing special. But film director Robert B. Sin says that the original version of this scene was 25 to 30 seconds longer and had two more heavy lines that were cut out of the theatrical cut. As an adult, a crew member said in an interview, "We all thought that line was funny, but the studio didn't laugh. They told us that we would lose PG right away if we kept it. And then it was gone for good."
That scene hasn't been on any VHS, DVD, or Blu-ray version since then.
For fans, this made-up line is now one of the most well-known lost lines of the Cannonball Run.
It was a brave moment of creativity that got lost in the thin line between funny and offensive.
In a different scene, there was another removed line that is often used as a classic example of improvised comedy going too far in the 1980s. According to an assistant director, the event happened during an interior shoot where the characters and some new characters talked quickly about what the cannonball race meant. The original script called for a short explanation like, but, during filming, a supporting actor who was a famous stand-up comedian messed up his line, which made the crew laugh out loud. There was a lot of relaxation on set, and director Hal Needham, who always liked acting, told them to keep going. As the laughter died down, another actor, an experienced comedian who often made fun of Burt Reynolds, jumped at the chance. He looked down at the camera with a smug grin and said, "The cannonball, it's a race from Connecticut to your ass." The whole set laughed out loud at this surprising line. Needham yelled, keep it," as the cameras kept rolling. These kinds of bold, made-up jokes were often seen as gold at the time because, if they worked, they could create classic moments of comedy. But when the footage was shown to the post-production team and Fox representatives, they had a very different response.
No one was brave enough to laugh.
The line was marked as too rude and should not be released to the public.
At that time, the MPAA said that any clear references to body parts or crude humor could cause a movie to lose its PG rating.
Keeping the scene wasn't a choice either because the movie had to be shown in a lot of theaters to attract families. The whole scene was cut in the end. The team that was editing only kept a few seconds of the beginning where the character awkwardly talked about the race. They cut right before the joke was supposed to be made. The scene ends with vague laughter in the theatrical release and all later versions. It then goes straight to the next scene of cars starting the race, so viewers don't know that a much more obscene moment was added on the spot. A sound worker told me years later that Hal Needham initially felt bad about cutting the line. He said the joke was the real spirit of Cannonball. Careless, bold, and without fear. But in the end, he said, the movie would have lost PG and half of its viewers if we kept it. The joke about a race from Connecticut to your behind has since become a famous story in the world of Hollywood production. People say that the footage only exists on raw tapes and was only shown a few times in the editing room before it was lost forever. However, no one outside the film crew has proven that the original footage still exists. This adds to the mysterious appeal of the Cannonball Run's cutscenes. Several scenes from the Cannonball Run were res-hot or edited more than once. There were also scenes that were cut out totally because they were too sensitive. Due to a lot of mistakes, which were usually caused by the player's uncontrolled improvisation and sense of humor. The pair J.J. McClure, Burt Reynolds, and Victor Princem as Dom DeLuise are what make the story worth telling. One is a cocky, skilled driver, and the other is a clumsy friend with a different attitude.
Captain Chaos is a character who says he is silly.
It was the contrast between the two characters that made the movie funny, but it also caused a lot of problems in the parts that had to be cut or res-hot several times. The scene where they meet again at the beginning of the movie in theaters is one of the best examples. The story says that JJ and Victor get back together after being apart for a long time. It was meant to be funny and show how two strange people who are getting ready for the cannonball race together feel close to each other. In fact, though, this scene had to be filmed more than once because of mistakes in the dialogue and laughter that couldn't be contained on set. At first, all Burt Reynolds had to do was say, "Hey buddy, it's been a while." It was planned for Dom DeLuise to say, "Good to see you again." But because Dom is funny and likes to make things up as he goes along, he kept changing the conversation as the camera rolled.
"It's been a while since we last saw each other. It's good to see you, Captain Chaos, coming to work."
Reynolds tried to stay serious to finish the scene, but Dom would crack a new joke, making Burt and the rest of the crew laugh so hard that the scene had to end right away. After a few takes, the conversation was a mess. The two greetings were shown twice in the same frame, which threw off the flow of the meeting scene. In the end cut, the editing team had to join different takes together to hide the mistakes. This made the lip sync between the two actors jump a little. This was a small mistake, but to watchers with sharp eyes, it was a clear sign that the set was full of laughter and uncontrolled improvisation. Another behind-the-scenes story about Dom DeLuise is when he added a line that wasn't in the script during a repeat of a scene between JJ and Victor.
"Are you ready for the race?"
Burt Reynolds asked. "Only if we can stop somewhere to fix my tooth," Dom said out loud after a short pause.
Captain Chaos really needs to see a doctor. The whole group, including Reynolds, couldn't stop laughing at this unexpected line. Behind the camera, Hal Needham laughed and quickly hit the intercom button and said, "Cut." "That's funny, Dom, but it doesn't fit in the movie." Even though the dentist joke was funny, it had nothing to do with the story and threw off the tone and rhythm of the movie. The director then asked for a second take and told Dom very clearly not to make any more doctor jokes. A member of the sound crew said that while the movie was being filmed, Dom would sometimes say, "Captain Chaos needs a dentist," just to make fun of the crew. Later, this line was written on the props board for weeks as a joke, and it turned into an internal meme. An important technical moment in the Cannonball Run happened late at night in the garage while a long conversation scene between JJ McClure and Victor Princem was being filmed. Hal Needham, the director, forgot to call for a cut because he was busy with a sound problem. The video kept going.
The two actors, who were always skilled, stayed in character the whole time. After almost 10 seconds of awkward quiet, Burt Reynolds broke the ice by looking around, raising an eyebrow, and laughing out loud as he asked, "So, no one's going to say cut?" The whole set laughed out loud when Reynolds said something, and Needham realized his mistake and yelled through the speakers, "Cut! Cut! We're cutting!" Even though this scene wasn't shown in theaters, it became a favorite behind-the-scenes story among the team and was remembered as the funniest accident of the whole shoot. It not only showed how relaxed and natural the production was, but it also showed how technology problems could lead to funny, memorable moments. It is said that a rough recording of this scene was kept in the production files, but it has never been made public. Many fans believe that this scene would have become one of the most famous in the whole Cannonball Run series if it had been shown in the bloopers at the end of the movie. In a different scene, J.J. McClure, played by Burt Reynolds, is the main character of the story. A cocky, sure of himself, and charming driver who sees the Cannonball Run as his own playground. Behind the scenes, though, it was Reynolds who was the movie's biggest star.
Who made the crew do a scene that seemed easy more than once?
The scene starts with JJ just before the race starts. Standing next to his race car, McClure wipes the glass and talks to a group of reporters and other racers. The script said that all he had to do was say a short, simple line, but it wasn't easy for him to do.
Reynolds laughed uncomfortably during the first take.
The crew laughed so hard at Reynolds' joke that the scene had to be stopped. Hal Needham, the director, was afraid to cut right away because he was friends with Reynolds from working with him on Smokey and the Bandit. Instead, he kept the cameras running and let Reynolds get back on track by making up a few lines on the spot.
But this made things even more disorganized and out of sync.
Reynolds tried more than once, and each time he changed how he said it.
What are we, the favorites?
We are, in fact, the favorites.
Most likely. Dom DeLuise could be heard yelling, "Not anymore, Burt," from off-camera in the raw video.
At this point, Reynolds laughed out loud again, and the scene had to be stopped. Later, a member of the crew said that Reynolds tried to keep a straight face but couldn't because everyone on the crew, even the camera operator, was laughing so hard. Things went on for so long that the director had to call a short break to give everyone a chance to calm down. The scene was cut down to just a few seconds in the final cut, and a whole line was put together from several takes. If people really look, they can still see Reynolds' eyes looking at the camera in a way that makes it look like she's trying not to laugh. This was a clear sign that the main character was having fun with the scene and not making a serious statement. Hollywood insiders say this is one of Burt Reynolds' famous line stumbles, which shows how unique the Cannonball Run style of shooting is. Everything was full of life, laughter, and enthusiasm, to the point where mistakes were part of the movie's charm. Despite having scenes cut out because they were too sensitive or wrong. The stories from behind the scenes of Cannonball Run are full of interesting stories about how the actors had to improvise and deal with a lot of energy on set. The movie had funny parts that weren't in the script and the actors' spontaneous creative comments. Both the movie itself and the way it was made gave off a sense of freedom.
The movie from 1981 called The Cannonball Run. This was one of Jackie Chan's first roles in an American movie.
In a small but memorable part as a Japanese high-tech racer, Jackie Chan made an impression with his quick martial arts moves and his own unique way of timing jokes.
In one fight scene, Jackie's character uses martial arts to beat opponents on the tracks.
This was the first time that action and comedy were seen together in the West.
For the first time in an Asian way.
It's interesting that Jackie Chan learned about how Hollywood makes comedies from director Hal Needham while the movie was being made.
Needham was famous for putting bloopers at the end of his movies, which showed funny, unplanned parts of the production. Jackie Chan thought it was a great idea and said, "It's a great way to show how much fun we had making the movie."
Jackie Chan has made it his brand to add bloopers to the end of his movies ever since. In these outtakes, Jackie Chan laughs at himself or shows how bad he is at doing risky stunts.
They are a unique part of his movies.
They not only make people laugh, but they also bring them closer to him and show appreciation for all the hard work he puts into every scene. One of the most interesting things that happened behind the scenes was with the famous ambulance that was in the movie. It wasn't just a prop that you saw in the Cannonball Run, 1981. It was the real car that director Hal Needham and scriptwriter Brock Yates drove in the 1979 Cannonball Run race. The ambulance was changed by adding a 440 CI wedge engine made by Landy. This engine can go as fast as 145 mb/233 mbs. Additionally, to save time, it had 4 fuel tanks that made it easy to add 90 gallons, 341 liters, of fuel quickly. It was a bold move for Needham and Yates to use the ambulance during the race and act like they were a medical team. There was a real doctor on board, as well as Pamela Yates, who was acting like a patient.
"We have a very sick case. Step aside." It is said that Yates yelled at the cops, which helped them get through many checkpoints. The ambulance couldn't finish the trip, though, because its transmission broke down in Palm Springs, California. A flatbed truck had to bring it to Long Beach.
Needham put the ambulance away for a few years after the race before using it as a prop in the Cannonball Run. After shooting was over, he gave the car to a charity, and a charity auction raised a lot of money through the sale. While the ambulance was an important part of the movie, it also stood for the bravery and creativity of the people who took part in the Cannonball Run. You might not know this, but the Cannonball Run was based on real races called the Cannonball Run, which were started by Brock Yates, an editor at Car and Driver magazine. In the 1970s, these races went from Connecticut to California across the country.
They were meant to break speed limits and test drivers' imagination.
The last race happened in 1979, and Brock Yates and director Hal Needham were in the famous ambulance that would later show up in the movie. To make it seem more real, Yates and Needham brought along a real doctor in Pamela Yates, who played a patient. Yates joked that we needed a good reason to get through police checks.
Their race didn't go as planned though, because the ambulance's engine broke down in Palm Springs, California.
In the end, they had to give up their trip and take the car to Long Beach on a flatbed truck. Besides the ambulance, many of the cars in the movie, like the Ferrari and Lamborghini, were real cars that were in the real race. This gave the movie a sense of realism. The Cannonball Run not only brought back the chaos, humor, and recklessness of the racers, but it also recognized the art and freedom that these events were known for. Burt Reynolds, who played JJ, is the movie's biggest star and can't be left out.
McClure.
Reynolds made $5 million a year, which was a tremendous amount of money at the time. But Reynolds later said that he felt bad about taking the part. In an interview many years later, he said, "I did it for the money, and I'm not proud of that."
Even so, Reynolds still turned JJ. McClure a character that people will remember. In one scene, JJ
stands next to the ambulance, wipes the windshield clean, and says with confidence, "This car, this team, we're unstoppable." Reynolds had to redo this scene several times behind the scenes because he couldn't stop laughing as his co-star Dom DeLuise kept going off script.
Dom yelled from behind the camera, "Not while you were driving, Burt." Everyone on the group laughed out loud at this.
Not only is the Cannonball Run, 1981 known for its interesting behind-the-scenes stories, but it was also affected by unexpected changes during filming and events that will live on in the history of the movie industry and the careers of its stars.
One important change was that Sammy Davis Jr. was cast as Fender Baum.
Don Rickles, who was supposed to play the lead role, dropped out of the movie for unknown reasons, and he was then hired. We don't know much about why Rickles quit the part, but the change in cast made the movie more interesting. Dean Martin, who played Jamie Blake, and Sammy Davis Jr. worked well together as a fake priest pair. When the cops stop Fender Baum in one scene, he says, "Officer, we're men of God." But the scene was one of the funniest in the movie because of how sincere they seemed to be acting and how they looked. Not everything that happened behind the scenes was happy, though.
Stuntwoman Heidi Von Bells was involved in one of the worst episodes. She had a terrible accident that left her paralyzed at a dangerous scene.
The accident happened when a car that hadn't been checked over carefully for safety hit another car during a crash sequence.
Heidi wasn't wearing the right safety gear and was sitting in the back seat.
She hurt her back permanently, and the accident caused a string of long-running cases. The accident involving Heidi Von Bells woke up the movie business and led to stricter safety rules on sets, especially for stunt actors. Even though something terrible happened, the movie still had a funny vibe to it, putting together many of the risky tactics used in the real Cannonball Run races. For instance, Jamie Blake and Fender Baum dress up as priests to keep the cops from thinking they are up to no good. When asked by a police officer, Jamie Blake says in one scene, "Forgive him, Father, for he has sinned." While Fender Baum solemnly nods, the crowd laughs out loud at how obviously fake they are. Also, the use of the ambulance to avoid traffic stops was a real technique used during the race, which added to the film's realism. Aside from the funny parts, the movie was also notable because it was the first time Western audiences saw Jackie Chan in an American feature picture. Even though Jackie Chan only had a small part as a high-tech racer, his unique martial arts action scenes and comedic timing made a big impact. Jack Chan and his co-driver were attacked by a group of bad guys on the tracks in one scene. Right away, he used his martial arts skills to beat them with quick, powerful moves that kept the crowd's attention. For Jackie Chan, this scene not only helped him become known, but it also set the stage for his future foreign career. But Jackie Chan later said, "But I knew that if it was done right, martial arts could touch everyone's heart, no matter what language they spoke." And those are all the crazy behind-the-scenes facts, cutscenes, and stories from the Cannonball Run that no one was ever meant to see. We'll always love this movie because it's not only a great comedy, but also a crazy, unpredictable trip. If what you just heard shocked you, made you laugh out loud, or just made you happy, don't forget to like it, follow, and turn on the bell so you don't miss any more videos.
How about you? Which part of this video made you laugh the most? Write your answer in the box below. We want to know what you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.